Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 8th of January of our Lord 2025. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Inkle, aka Moton Noah. Don't usually see me on a Wednesday. Nick, what are we doing seeing you on a Wednesday? Yeah, if you missed the last episode, I made a brief announcement that I'm going to be trying something a little new. This Wednesday, today, we got a bonus episode. At some other point this month, there will be another Wednesday bonus episode, I think. Expect that. So why did we do this? Well, the guy that I'm having on the show today, only the second guest ever in the history of the Coping Hour, is a dude that I spend a lot of my time talking to, and I just was like, why don't we have one of these conversations exist in perpetuity on the internet? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take you all over the place. I mean, I can't even, I haven't done the timestamps for it yet as I'm taping this. I can't even admit what a disaster that's going to look like. But, yeah, just giving you guys something nice. You'll have an episode on Friday. So if, I don't hit on things that Nick didn't talk about this thing in this episode. Well, it's a bonus episode. So the real meat and potatoes, I don't want to say the real meat and potatoes isn't this episode because you still listen to the episode. I think it's a good one. But yeah, see you guys on Friday to do more topical shit, and enjoy the bonus. Hope your week's going well. Here we go. Actually, it would probably be a good time for me to get the wheels off of the runway with this kind of a segment, because I've been trying to do this for a few months, and every single time I try, it just doesn't work, so I think I have the right brain with me here to do this. The All-NBA Saudi Arabia team, where if there was like a live golf adjacent that spawned in tomorrow for the NBA, who are the guys that are dropping everything that they have in the NBA and they're getting a contract? I think the reason I'm bringing this up right now also is because as of this taping, we are less than 24 hours removed from the Miami Heat being like, they put out a press release on behalf of hey, Jimmy Butler, this guy, we'll look into some trades. Does Jimmy Butler hear out offers on going to Saudi Arabia?
Quick, guns drawn off the hip. Answer is yes. But is it a 3-on-3 league like Big Three? Is it a 2-on-2 Olympic style? Because here's the other name that popped into my mind: Miami Heat legend, alum, Dwayne Wade. He's so mad about the statue, and they're like, "Hey, we can't change this. We invested all this money in this. We just need you to put up, we need to put up the paper if you want to get this thing, adjusted at all." And so he's getting that Saudi Arabia money so he can fix his own statue.
I don't think that Dwayne Wade is allowed to be mad about how bad the statue looks, because I watched the game and the presentation live when they were doing it, because they were playing. It happened against Detroit. So it happenstance, I was just watching when they did ceremony. And they kept featuring and zeroing in on the fact that Dwayne Wade was very involved in this process. That from beginning to end, Dwayne Wade had not like creative control, but like he was, you know what I mean? So if he's going to, in the same sentence, talk about how attached he was to the actual process of it, he cannot then turn around and be like, it actually stinks. Thoughts?
Mm. So this is like he was zagging against our expectations, and he was like, "I want this thing to look a little bit ugly, right?" It's like when you do art, but you're just tired of it being good art. Like when Kanye did Yeezus, it's just like I want it to be a little ugly, like a little bit bad, because that's interesting. So I feel you. That's a great conspiracy theory, like really low stakes, but I buy in.
Right. Okay, so back to the Saudi Arabia thing. If we had to put, like, Patrick Beverley's still kind of looking for a contract, they'd probably give him what, 50 million for 3
Yeah, I
years?
mean, did Saudi Arabia normalize relations with Israel right now? I don't know. Could they just do like a quick transfer portal thing since he was playing over there? Like, that might the logistics on that, the paperwork might not be too bad. I mean, again, you just got me in Miami Heat mode, so I'm just like, Udonis Haslem only just retired. So if we get the big three team, Udonis Haslem, Dwayne Wade, Jimmy Butler, right? Again, you can even call them, the Dubai Heat, right? Right, the Jeddah Heat, right? What I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
temperature is perfect. You know what I'm saying? Although you didn't specify, are they playing in Saudi Arabia? Are they playing here? It's just, you know, the local NBA Cup sponsored by Emirati situation.
Well, the Live Tour was in Saudi Arabia, wasn't it? So they would have to be in the Middle East.
That's a good question. You know what?
I
I
think it
obviously
was.
I know more like generally about the Live Tour than the specifics because I never watched it, but I'm just like they were playing in Saudi Arabia, like for real? Like they got good golf courses over there? That seems a
Yeah.
little a little
Oh,
counterintuitive, you know what I'm saying?
Well, brother, they make clouds, so they can you know
That
what
is
I mean? The
true.
weather can sustain a
Yeah.
golf course, a full
Have you seen
18. So
the hail, the videos of the hail in the desert, like the snow and the hail from
from the
those?
clouds that they see,
Yeah, yeah. Because some of them
no.
don't go exactly to specification, right? Like they try to do it to get rain, right? Obviously, in some little cloud cover, but sometimes they get crazy hail in the desert. Like if you just Google Saudi Arabia snow desert or hail desert, it's wild. I mean, they're still figuring it out, right? Again, we're talking about some futuristic shit right here.
This is totally not. This is going to sound like I wasn't listening to what you were saying, but it is tangentially related to what you were saying because it's something that you mentioned a minute ago that I've never even thought about these two people ever being in the same room. MBS and Netanyahu. Is there any relationship at all? Just
Uh,
geographically, I don't know.
no, so like they haven't had normalized relations for a long time, but as part of like pre-October 7th, they were trying to get Israel and Saudi Arabia to have like stabilized relations, right? Normalized, so that, like they have embassies and all that good stuff. And that was going to happen until October 7th, and then everything, went sideways. So my expectation would be they'd never been in the same room. They were very close to, but it was a little bit of like, LeBron going to New York. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he showed up like, Madison Square, one of the offices for a video treatment, but never got there.
Did you ever see The Zone of Interest, the movie about the family who worked at Auschwitz?
No, I only saw the jokes about Zone of Interest because, I figured Zone of Interest was a little bit of maybe some propaganda, right? Why is that coming out right now? A little doing a little
Mm.
little Hollywood washing of the situation going on. So I just kind of avoided it. But, Zone of Interest, NBA Zone references, lots of plot points revealed. So, I feel like I've seen the movie, basically.
You said something that also kind of tipped me off. That is, it's going to sound like I wasn't listening to what you were saying. But do you remember when it was Bleacher Report that was trying to push Game of Zones on us? Do you remember that?
I do, I do. They had that one. Didn't they have like an anime one too? Or is that somebody else?
No,
There's a
that was
couple of
Game of
those like
Zones.
no, no, no. Oh, so there's Game of Zones based on Game of Thrones, but then there was like an anime one where they have like everybody has like Dragon Ball Z characters. And I couldn't remember
Oh,
if that was the same people or if that was one of the other media companies that was doing that. Anyways, yeah. So I saw a few Game of Zones, and I feel like in the beginning it was okay, right? Like there's a few. You can draw those parallels pretty well. You can line up characters, or whatever. But after like the third or fourth one, I mean, you're just scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're like,
yeah.
you're comparing people to dragons, and it's getting tough.
Did you also see, you talk about your damn childhood? You see the commercial, well, do you remember the commercial from like, I don't know, at this point, 10, 15 years ago, of all of the dudes in the NBA wearing the sleeve jerseys with like the jingle bell baskets?
Mm, of
Okay,
course, of
we
course.
all remember the commercial, right? Did you see that ESPN like recreated it, but they just used like fake claymation and just like audio bites from when players were mic'd up in games. So they just spliced it all together. What the hell is this? What was that? Did you see this? You hear about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so conflicted because I'm pro claymation, but anti nostalgia and anti sleeve jerseys, but pro Steph Curry in his prime. So you're saying like there's too many variables going in both directions. So I'm just like, love to be reminded of old Steph, hate the sleeve jerseys. Claymation is great. We need more of that, less AI slop, but don't do it. Don't just do a carbon copy of something that was already done, right? Like, pay some people to come up with some good ideas. I mean, I know, sometimes that's tough
Yeah.
for ESPN, but it is what it is.
I've kind of started to fall into that camp of people who are like, man, ESPN was so much better 20 years ago. And I just thought that people were being lame. And I'm like, yeah, shit was cooler when you were younger. Like, whoa. I watch a lot of ESPN. I like a lot of ESPN programming almost every single morning with my son when we wake up. I will put on like Get Up or First Take. I'm starting to get there that it stinks. But just on the AI thing, did you also see the commercial? It's a Coke commercial, and there's a disclaimer. They're like, none of this shit is real. It's all AI generated. And there's even a point where there's like a shot of like a wheel turning, and the Coke logo on the wheel is fucking wrong. It's not even real. And so it's like, so wait, what was the what? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, what's the purpose of showing us something like that?
No, it's absolutely terrible, right? It's just flaunting it in our face that they're just like, hey, guess what? We're Coca-Cola. No matter what we do, you're gonna buy this shit. That's how I took it, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it was just they're just stunting on everybody, right? It's just it's impeccably bad, right? It's just like on the nose bad. You're Coca-Cola, right? Just like
Right.
you do death squads in the third world, right? You like take water rights from people and try and sell it back to them. Like, you know what I'm saying? And you're just like, haha, AI, bro. It's like when Pepsi did what was it? The was it Kylie Jenner, one of the Jenners in there,
Yeah,
and people were just like, we're not having this.
not Kylie, Kendall. It was Kendall with
Okay.
the riot shit, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like that, right? And again, it was crazy. I bought a pair of Jordans the other day. I haven't bought Jordans in 20 years, but what were they're the colloquially the Mexican Independence Day Jordans. I can't remember.
Okay. Hell
Anyways,
yeah.
but they were great, except on the box, the Air Jordan logo they put on the box clearly AI generated. Absolute dog shit. And so
Whoa.
it made me go back and I was just like, I can't believe I paid for this. Let me check if there's anywhere on the shoe that also looks AI generated. And luckily, well, patterns, designs didn't explicitly look that way. So I felt like, all right, except on the tongue, on the inside, it has that same Air Jordan logo. But it's terrible, man. It's like how much, again, right? How much are you saving by being like, oh, we don't have to pay the typographist. We don't have to pay the guy who comes up with the fonts anymore. We're saving, $50 an hour. You don't even understand how efficient this is, bro. Our bottom line. And so it's just disgusting.
Is the Jordan font proprietary?
Ooh, I mean, if it is, probably Nike owns it. So it's like
Yeah.
they don't even really again this is so unnecessary, right? It's just I wish I had the box in front of me. I could just show you. I could point out all the places where it's just like the main thing is if you look at something that's just writing, just like again sequence of letters, check to see if there's two of the same letter anywhere in the sentence and see if they're different, and see if they're different in a way that would make any sense. You're like, why would you do this? Why would a human do this? And most of the time the answer is no. Like it's just sloppily different enough. It's like not replicated in the right way. Because again, the whole thing with fonts, right, is just that like, hey, if you do a B over here and a B over here, they look the same. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a
Yeah.
consistency, there's a language to the art that is completely being, disregarded when it comes to the AI stuff. And so that's one of the big giveaways. You're just like look for a repeating feature in AI art, and if it like is just slightly weird or different, it's like this is bullshit. So I don't know. All you AI sleuths out there, there's a tip and
Did
trick.
you ever just on like font conspiracies? You want to do font conspiracies real quick?
Look, I don't know how deep your font conspiracy bag is, but if it's more than one, I'll be eternally impressed.
Well, the Wingdings one,
Okay.
the 9/11 Wingdings one. You know about that?
9/11 and wings, those go together. Wing dings, you're gonna have to update me on that one.
Dog, if you so the Wingdings font where it's
Yep,
like
yep.
it's like hieroglyphics, like it's not
Yeah,
even
it's yeah, symbols. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. So if you type, I don't know, I haven't done this since I was like fucking 10, but if
Mm.
you do like all caps, I don't remember which Wingdings it is. It's like NY33. It's one of the flight numbers. It's literally a plane flying into two buildings. I swear to God. It's like folding a $5 bill and seeing the Illuminati type shit. I swear to
Yeah.
God. It's bizarre.
This this is some Luigi Mangione Breloom, what was that insurance code matching the Pokemon number? They're just playing in our face. You know what I'm saying? Like it's yeah. So I believe you, and I believe that's true, right? It's just like, you spell out Iraq and it's just George Bush's face and wingdings. Like I believe that's there. I'm not even gonna check. I just believe you.
The guy, so the anniversary of Bush getting hit in the face with a shoe was like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago at this point.
Totally.
That guy who did it, still to this day, if you like tweet him and you're like, that shit was awesome, he'll retweet you and he'll like be like,
100%.
yeah, it was awesome. Like, what a
Happens
cool
every
life
year.
that guy has now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's great. I mean, we should just replace Labor Day with that, right? Like union density is so low, nobody really celebrates Labor Day or May Day, right? One of these. It's like we've completely lost the fighting spirit, as workers in this country. So let's just replace it with like a holiday celebrating that guy. That guy did something. You know what I mean? Like he probably did more in that moment than, anybody's done for unions up until recently.
Is that what it was about? It was mad about unions.
No, 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 no. He was mad about the
Oh.
invasion, about the deaths of his countrymen.
Oh.
No, but
Right.
I was saying
Right.
replace Labor Day with it, replace May Day with it.
Oh.
So, anyways, it's okay. You know what? You weren't picking up what I'm picking. What I'm putting down. Sorry,
No, I
sorry.
just completely went over my head. Back on the AI thing though, did you also see that Meta started flooding Instagram with these like AI accounts, like the characters, and then within like 24 hours, nuked all of the accounts, and now they just
Yeah.
don't exist anymore. So my question is like, is this like, was that like a social experiment? Like, what was the purpose of showing those when they did, and then the immediate being like, oh, okay, we'll just delete these. Like, what
Yeah.
were they trying to do?
So this is a great question. I've been thinking a lot about this, and here's what I think is these accounts, right, are it's the trial balloon first and foremost, right? They're gonna tell us at first, right? It's gonna be kind of obvious. You're gonna go look at those accounts and be like, hey, that's obviously fake because nobody looks like that, nobody talks like that. This whole thing reads like an NPC. Okay, so now they have a baseline against which to measure. You know what I'm saying? So the next time they roll this out, they're not going to tell you, and they'll already have improved upon it 3x, right? This is kind of the end game for social media companies is they need the bots to juice all the numbers because they juice all the numbers today anyways. When Facebook is like, we have 2 billion people using the platform, it's just like, okay, bro, like, yeah, okay, yeah, we all believe that 2 billion number, right? And so as people stop clicking on ads, what do you need? Bots clicking on ads, right? Once advertisers get sick of nobody clicking their shit anymore on Facebook, and it's just like, hey, it's all AI slapping ads. What's the next move? Oh, use AI to make profiles that give other people engagement and give them a reason to be on Facebook. Or, you know, nuclear option is just have the AI bots start clicking ads, right? Start juicing those ad numbers. And they're not going to reveal
Whoa.
any of this when it gets to the stage where it's good enough that you can't tell. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, they're showing you because they know it's not even good enough. They know it wouldn't fool anybody. So when it can, you're going to be looking at this old shit and being like, oh, it doesn't look like that, so it must be a real person.
That's a I mean, it's a crazy place to just drop the mic because I still haven't wrapped my head around most of it.
No,
Okay,
but I mean,
so
that's how these companies go, though, right? It's like they're showing you it's the magic trick, right? They're like, hey, pay attention to this thing over here,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then once we get all the things that people point out about why it's fake, it's like, bro, you're doing in the biz we call this user acceptance testing. You're doing UAT for Facebook. You're like helping them test their product and tell them how shitty it is so they can improve it.
Okay, so that's kind of what I was thinking it was. Is it was like a, if the feedback is bad, then we know that, you know what I mean, and they can pull it, and they still learned something from it. And then the piece that you mentioned about the next time that we see this, we won't even realize that we're seeing it. Um, so if we talk about it like this and how what it could look like 4 years from now when you're not even able to discern if it's a real person or not, something that you and I talked a little bit about this. We talked about it on the show here too. This past election cycle and how podcasts played a role in maybe not influencing the actual outcome, but the registration at least definitely got a bump from that. It's just because the candidates just went into they just went into their own echo chambers. There was nobody who was trying to branch out into that, whatever. Like Bernie, hey, he went on Rogan. Anyways, do you think like 4 years from now, I don't think 4 years is enough, but the next election cycle, there will be a president who does a 30-minute medium form conversation
With
with
an
like
AI.
with an AI, right?
Okay. Okay.
With a neural
You know,
network.
that's a great question. Like, how about this? Let's take it one step further. Do they do a 30-minute interview with AI Elon Musk because Elon Musk has stopped showing up in public?
You think, whoa, okay, this feels like a full court heave that you just threw in there. So wait,
Let's go. Let's go. Hot potato. You got it.
I mean,
You got it right
my
here.
knees just fucking slapped together. Whoa, okay, so wait,
It's a
so
Goku
four,
spirit bomb. You know what I'm saying?
right?
You just gotta try and throw it back.
Fuck the election. What's gonna happen between now and 2029? We just don't see Elon Musk anymore.
I mean, again, right? There's gonna be an Ozempic accident. He's gonna get the BBL Drizzy abs or something. Something's gonna go wrong, and he doesn't feel like he can go out in public anymore. But he still has to keep like appearances up because all of these companies are resting upon his mythology, right? But something, again, we don't want to. I'm not saying he's literally a CIA asset. I'm just saying he's figuratively, metaphorically, abstractly a literal CIA asset. And so if there's something goes wrong, right? And again, he can't show himself anymore. They can't lose the brand Elon Musk. They can't lose the figurehead Elon Musk. So AI will. progressed enough that he can do, synthetic audio at first, right? Maybe some
Uh-huh.
grainy video footage. He'll be like, oh, I didn't update my camera firmware at the house, so you're only seeing the grainy footage or whatever, right? And, they're gonna have to like puppet Elon Musk after he's gone just to maintain the value of all his companies and properties. Stay woke.
I wonder how quick into 2025 the relationship between he and Donald and RFK, like when does the what's the Breakfast Club? No, we need to put one more in there if it's going to be the Republican Breakfast Club. Matt
Ooh,
Gaetz
this is
just got
good.
kicked out,
Okay.
so it can't be
Who's
Matt
the
Gaetz.
white rapper that was on Tulsa King?
Complete blind spot, blind spot. What did you say,
Jelly
Kid
Roll.
Rock? Jelly
Jelly
Roll?
Roll
Oh, okay.
with the face
No, he's
tattoos.
no, he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Okay.
I believe
He
he's a
just
good
he's
guy.
just MAGA coded. He's just not. He's. Ooh, is he reverse MAGA grifting?
Whoa, hold on, hold my hand.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Where would we? Okay, start from the beginning because I don't
Okay.
see that from him at all. Because what I view him as one of those Trump supporters that I don't actually. I'm not mad at them for supporting him. Where I especially give people a pass for doing it in 2016 because the whole like let's shake things up and like I'm not gonna you get a pass the first time like whatever, right? Because if it was a leftist and I know plenty of people who would have done the same thing. Um, I think he's a pretty harmless guy. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Reverse MAGA grifting. Let's talk about it though. Where are you coming from?
Yeah. So let's be clear. I know nothing about Jelly Roll except that he was on Tulsa King as himself,
Okay.
and that somehow Sylvester Stallone still bested him in some way, even though Sylvester Stallone. Again, are we gonna let Sylvester Stallone go, or we're gonna AI clone him? We're gonna do the Tupac hologram to Sylvester Stallone.
He's
Separate
got to be
question.
gone. Yeah, he's got to be gone.
Yeah, but we can't lose him, right? I mean, him, JCVD, Arnold, they're all getting the hologram treatment, after they're gone. We got to keep making Terminator movies. But back to Jelly Roll, I don't know anything about this man. All I know is he seems very right-wing coded, as in like, like again, like somebody like a Yellow Wolf, right? Might be before your time. You know
No,
what I'm
no, no. I
saying?
know
Like,
Yellow Wolf. Yeah.
signed to Eminem's record label, right, doing rap, or a Machine Gun Kelly or whoever, and then they do the pivot to country music once once they've exploited the game enough, right? They're like, hey, actually let me do guitar music, right? I'm just like, is Jelly Roll doing the reverse? Like he's popular with the MAGA crowd, and then he's gonna zag at some point and do his like he's gonna do an album full of like interpretive James Baldwin songs or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or he'll just do like a full Suicide Boys thing. And then Jelly Roll actually becomes because what is the alt left pipeline? What even that does that
Mhm.
exist conceptually? Because the alt
No.
right pipeline still exists. Because they tried to
Yeah.
get me earlier today. I'm getting a lot of damn YouTube shorts about guns lately. I'm watching a lot of them. I'm not gonna lie. I'm watching
I
a
was
lot
gonna
of them.
say,
They're getting me.
you're snitching on yourself a little bit right now
Yeah,
because
no, they're
the
getting me.
algorithm just feeds what you click. So you're just like,
Yep.
hey, I can't help it. You know.
I talk about this. Oh man, I bring this up here at home all the time. Every few months, my algorithm tries to get me. And a
Mm.
lot of the time, I'm able to clock it in real time. I'm like, this is weird. This is a lot of military shit and like funk music and guns. And so I will always just dislike it, immediately scroll, right? But
Okay.
sometimes I'm like, I got a little bit of time. And so I'll go for a few days and I'll be like, man, guns, all these shorts about YouTube, or these YouTube shorts about guns are really funny. You've been talking about, not you've been talking about, but you talked about the CIA asset thing.
Yeah.
You and I haven't talked about this.
You have a
But
confession to make?
I do. I don't think Tucker is anymore. I just don't think he is.
You think there's a way out, right? Like, so it's basically for you, the CIA is kind of like it's like you know, stereotypical gang violence in the 80s where it's just like, you got to get blooded in and blooded out. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want to leave, you got to get your ass beat within an inch of your life and then you can walk away. So you're saying like Tucker got blooded in, who knows what he had to do to prove himself to the
Mm,
CIA. And then at some point, like maybe it was the Putin interview. Maybe Putin
right.
whooped his ass so
Exactly.
bad that they let him
Exactly.
out. They're like, you're actually doing more harm to us than good. But again, would the CIA just kill him? When they just, when they just
No.
suicide him?
That dude is the closest thing that we have to to a public oligarch. That dude's like old money.
Right.
You that guy can't fake kill him.
Sure.
I think so.
Like these are the questions, right? We don't know the contours of the CIA, of the CIA's policy on neutralizing former assets. You know what I'm saying? So like I do like this though because again, you can go a little bit too far and you can just be like, well, if you get on the CIA's bad side, it's immediate drone to the head, it's immediate, melting, brain melting gun or whatever
Mhm.
that they shoot at you. But I think it's a little more involved than that. I think they have criteria. I think they have a memo somewhere that's just like, if you reach this, if you do this, that it triggers certain clauses, and they take their actions based on that. So maybe he did something bad enough or embarrassing enough to be let out or not to have not be in their good graces anymore, but he's still operating. It just seems wild to me, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just when the CIA is just known for just being like, oh, you run Uganda in the 70s? No, you don't. Oh, you're the Shah of Iran? No, you're not. Like they didn't really have standards back then. So maybe the woke CIA has a few more rules now, a few more regulations, and they don't just off people like that anymore.
The Putin interview, I remember for the first 15 minutes being like, oh, he's kind of getting in his ass a little bit. Oh, whoa, Tucker. And then I immediately realized that the exact inverse of that was happening. And because the damn thing is like 2 hours long. It's so long. And then
No, thank
after
you.
that, he went on like a big podcast cycle. Also, he still had his own show on like his own digital network, I guess. I don't even know if he does that anymore. You just don't really, I don't know. He's just not really part of the
Yeah, no, I
zeitgeist.
mean, he fumbled the bag so bad. I mean, like you said, he doesn't need the bag, so maybe that's why
Right.
he felt comfortable fumbling it so bad. But he went to Twitter, right? And then it couldn't handle it. Like their whole infrastructure is fucked up and terrible for streaming video, and it just like bricked, and he had no audience. So that's what happened to him, right? Is like Elon was like, "Hey, I got you, I got you," and then he did the Lucy football, and Tucker face planted, but he can afford to, right? I mean, face planted right into caviar, so he's straight.
Right. I was thinking about this the other day, and so I learned you mentioned something about being on the CIA's like shit list. I was thinking about the FBI's most wanted list. I was like, what does that
Hmm.
look like these days? Because
It's a
I
good
always
question.
think about the FBI's most wanted list, and I'm like, oh, these are dudes who set off like pressure cooker bombs at like Boston marathons and shit like that. We're looking for two Chechnyan guys, like the worst of the worst. No, like it's bad stuff. Like it's dudes who killed a person and then went to like Mexico or went to like Canada or got on a plane and now we don't know where they're. Like I don't know, it was just like really, I don't want to say trivial shit, but if you're going to be number 1 on the FBI's most wanted list, I guess I was just hoping for like has been writing a lot of letters and sending mail bombs and shit like that and like lives in the
Yeah.
woods possibly. Kind of
You were
underwhelmed.
just, you're looking for some fire. You wanted
Right.
some quirky villains, you know what I'm saying, back in your life. But unfortunately, because Luigi was just an ethnic white, right, and he didn't have any real minority attributes, right? They couldn't just fill the wanted list with clones, copycats, AI invented, terrorists that match his
Uh-huh.
profile. So you know what I'm saying? Like if it was instead of Luigi Mangione, right? If it was, you know, Ahmed Mangione, right? The FBI most wanted list is getting updated immediately with just 12 guys that look like him, right? It's just like, oh, you got curly hair. Oh, you got a face mask on. Like you're on the list, right? And everybody just buy it and just believe it, right? Because to your point, who's paying attention anymore? No, nobody's paying attention. I mean, really, we got to get back to bounty hunting,
Yeah.
as a national pastime, and that's when people will be paying attention. You start putting real bounties out there. You start, using crypto, you start making an app for it, right? You just start getting real cowboy bebop type shit in there. People pay attention, right? People, they'll get the eyeballs, they'll get the viewers. Maybe they pivot to video. They'll be all right.
Yeah. Have you heard the conspiracy about McDonald's and how they're
Mm.
always wrapped up at the end of these manhunts? And so the most recent one, they find Luigi in a McDonald's. It's like, whoa, that's weird.
It
And then
is.
do you
It's kind of
remember?
like, yeah, I was just gonna say it's kind of like if McDonald's was on the Monopoly board and everybody just landed on it every time. But now you got to think how
Every
many McDonald's are out there. They're just everywhere, right? There's so much real estate, so much cameras out there at
right.
McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like, it's the railroads times six.
the guy a couple years ago, I think it was in Cleveland, somewhere in Ohio. He just like was walking up to people, killing them on Facebook Live. And I remember as a kid who had unfettered internet access watching that like 100 times. And I was like, damn, that's a guy getting his head blown off. And my mom was like, what are you watching? And I explained to her what it was. And I was like, do you want to see it? And she was like, no, I don't want to see that. But anyways, so they couldn't find that guy for a while. And then somebody in a McDonald's was like, hey, the guy is in here. And then he went out into his car and he shot himself. But it's always McDonald's but to your point, yes, if you take off the tinfoil, it's just a lot. It's just a volume thing. It's just a lot of McDonald's
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. I hate to spoil the fun, right? And just be like, yeah, it's truly just real estate and camera,
Right.
camera density and things like that. But I think we could come up with something interesting with involving Ronald McDonald, the Hamburglar or something like that. Maybe they just spent so much time catching the Hamburglar over and over again, they just got really good at it. And so now, maybe there is an equivalent to the FBI within McDonald's, right? There's some sort of like SWAT team that catches people in McDonald's.
If the next CEO that was murdered was Ronald McDonald, what happens to the I don't,
Martial law. We're going for full South Korea. Do
what's
we have in it like do we have it in us to storm your local McDonald's if they're calling martial law after the assassination of Ronald G. McDonald?
whoa, that's a good point.
Or are we too apathetic? Are we too far gone as a nation?
Oh, I forgot to mention this to you actually. Saudi Arabia. That's what I forgot to mention. Saudi Arabia. Get the ship back on the road here. Somebody else that I was thinking about for this list. Draymond's got to be at that point, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, looking at his beard, right? He's got enough gray and white in that beard to be looking for his next move. Again, you and I've talked offline about. I think he's eyeing that TNT gig, right? I mean, or the equivalent, right, on Amazon or NBC or whatever. So I don't know. Is the bag for the NBA Live Tour sponsored by the Emiratis, is that bigger than the Amazon bag, or is it the same thing? Right? Is he going to be player announcer? Is he going to be the first ever like Bill Russell style, but he'll like be mic'd up? Ooh, there we go. The players are mic'd up
Whoa.
while they're playing in the NBA Live Tour.
Dude, brother, I cannot believe that you just mentioned this. So by the time this releases 2 episodes ago, I did like 2 minutes on an NBA League Pass product that I would pay for. And that was you set up parabolic mics. They're all over the court. It picks up all 10 guys. Probably hard to like zero in on the 10. But logistically, the NBA can figure this out. I would pay for a feed of raw audio of the stadium and just the players. That's what you're talking about here, right?
Totally. Now the only thing is it'll never happen because they're too worried about the player images, right? And there's too much dirty things said on the court. And I don't mean dirty as in like 1950s. I mean like you would understand why people fight. You would understand why, this player is not beloved in his own locker room, right? Because of the shit that he says. So unfortunately, there'd be too much airing of dirty laundry and baby mamas and et cetera, et cetera. So I don't
Yeah.
think it could happen. But I would love to just type in the stadium noise, right? Get rid of all the announcers. Just let me bask in 4K, Dolby Atmos stadium sounds while I'm watching the game. I prefer that any day of the week. You know, Again, are you ready for scorching hot takes? Are you ready for that yet? Because I can get into my anti Mike Breen stance if you're
Oh,
interested.
brother, you really want to do this? You want to do the thing where you tell
No,
the
no,
world?
you, you're right. You know what? Let's save that for another time, right? Let's give people something to look forward to. Mike Breen, bottom five announcer all time. Go.
Because while you're at it, you can also do your 5 minutes on what was it that Luca stinks and actually got
Mm,
drafted by the wrong team, and you hate
here
him
we
and he
go.
stinks.
That is a bit slanderous, a bit hyperbolic, but I will say, of all the timelines that have ever existed in the multiverse, we got the worst Luca. The worst performing Luka Doncic of any of the situations. Again, let's go back and redraft him. Every single
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
we
yeah.
got the worst Luka, right? We got the heliocentric, literally emulating every part of James Harden's game, including the strip club and his uh rotund midsection. He's copying all of it, right? It's like why did he go full Harden on us? Worst timeline.
I don't think that he went full hard on us, but my problem with it. Okay, so in a vacuum, I love saying that we got the worst timeline. I think that's just a fun way to, to in a vacuum. But he still gives you 37, 13, and 11. So I just don't. That's the thing is I'm like, so in what? Because if your argument before was if he was with Sacramento that it would be better than how it is now.
100%. 100%. They've built a statue of Lottie Divas that looks like Dwayne Wade in Sacramento already. And here's all it is, right? And again, we're saving this for for the after hours pod. But what it comes down to is go watch him play in Spain, right? No look dimes. He was doing the Kevin Love full courts. He was getting everybody
Mm-hmm.
involved, right? You're talking about 13 and 11, brother. He was dropping 20 dimes a game, right? I want the Magic Johnson Luca, right? I want the Luca who's hungry, right? Who's playing on a team that doesn't baby him and give him whatever he wants, and Mark Cuban, most player friendly owner of all time, wham wham boo boo, right? Like, give me the Luca who's hungry in Phoenix, right? Give me the Luca who's hungry in Atlanta, Chicago. Luca in Atlanta? Are you kidding me? Luca,
I
Luca
would
in the
hate it.
Migos? That's a joke, right?
No,
Look,
no.
the Migos even, think about this. The Migos tried to make Trey Young cool, which you can't do.
It's I don't know. I think it's working now. This
The man's
season,
got
I
baby
think
hair. The
no,
man
but
he's got Gerber baby hair that's balding at the same time. Like, you can't make that cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, what
but
would they
his
have done with Luca? Oh, they would have had a field day with Luca, right?
well,
Luca
but if
Luca would have been the reverse Jelly Roll.
you think if Luca was in Atlanta with all that damn lemon pepper, he would be the weight thing would still be it would be Zion. He would just be Zion.
Oh,
So that piece of it doesn't change. I would push back on Trey Young not being cool. If any other year in his career, even going back to Oklahoma, I would agree with you. There's literally zero chance. I'm telling you, this year though, it's his beard. Now that his beard has started to connect, that gives a man just a different form of confidence. And I also love, on a real basketball note, I love the rivalry that he has with the Knicks because it will be a game in the middle of December, and if he's playing in the Garden, he will talk his shit, even in a game that doesn't matter. I love that that's continued to be a thread to follow. I, in most cases, would never be caught dead rooting for Trey Young, but I will tip my cap and be like, he might be a little cool this year. I don't know. People are saying.
tip of the cap is appropriate, absolutely, right? The beard does help. He's got to shave his head, right? He's got to go full, like,
Yes, Derek White.
again, right? Yeah, you got to do the Derek White big time. And again, yeah, I mean, he's got a couple tools in his belt, right? He can hit some threes, right? He never ended up being Steph Curry like everybody told us he was going to be. He has the Knicks rivalry, but I mean, it's fun. You'd want to see them in the playoffs against each other a couple times, right? Get that real rivalry, get that mid '90s New York Indiana style thing going. But there's not a whole lot of that. It's just onesie twosies, and hey, Dyson Daniels makes everybody better. So I'm saying Trey Young owes Dyson Daniels some of that contract, some
Did
of
you
that
see the
supermax.
thing about Dyson Daniels being like, yeah, there's a curse in New Orleans? He's like, everybody that plays there gets hurt. He's like, even the curse affected me. You seen that?
I mean, I didn't see him say that, but he's only speaking the truth. I mean, you just have to keep going back forever, right? It's really what it is I blame it on everyone in Utah, because if they didn't steal the Jazz name away from New Orleans, it should have been the New Orleans Jazz and always should have been, right?
Oh,
Why they never gave that back, right? They're again, it's like snatching your soul out of your body, right? It's just affecting everything in New Orleans basketball wise. Until they get the Jazz name back, they'll never win anything.
what if the reason that there hasn't been a manifesto of the guy who drove the truck, it was not because he was like some radicalized jihadist. It was because it was something as stupid as, why the fuck won't they give us our team name back? And he floored it into a, if Trey
That's it.
Young, if Trey
Mm.
Young is offered $750 million, he gets like almost the Mbappe contract from the Saudis. Trey Young, because he's never going to win a ring in Atlanta, at least. Who knows? If he teamed up with if the Spurs thing happens and the him and Wemby thing ends up, because that marriage feels like that trajectory, we're kind of on that course, then maybe. But he could also put up like Wilt numbers in the Saudi league, 750 million.
Yeah, he probably would, but again, what do you what are you doing if Trey Young is the face of your league, right? That ain't it. That's not popping. It's like he doesn't have the global numbers, right? It's like, ooh, here's a good
No,
name
for
for you.
sure.
Put Get Derrick Rose, beloved in China,
Yeah.
beloved around the world. Derrick Rose, give him that Saudi money. He deserves it, but he doesn't need it, right? So I don't know if he would actually do it, but you still see the clips of him every once in a while, right? Or he was playing with his son the other day in some rec league or something. But he's the type of guy I can see. He's you know beloved international star. That's why Dwayne Wade again. He had some heat, no pun intended, back in the day. But Trey Young, he's just not doing it. He's not doing it across the world.
The day that we're taping this is we're hours removed from the Bulls announcing that next year they're going to retire Derrick Rose's jersey. I think you hit the nail right on the head with this, but it sprayed some WD-40 on my brain. It made me think about something. You're 100% right about the international love that Derrick Rose gets. Can I give you a player that I think is loved in America, but nobody else fucking thinks about this guy at all?
Mm, go.
Isaiah Thomas. Like Celtics Isaiah Thomas. I don't
Interesting.
know if that's part of the circles that you're in as far as your basketball consumption goes. Motherfuckers still to this day, it's honestly it's not this it's apples and oranges, the circumstances, but the principle of people continuing to say this guy well past when they're able to play. It's like the Kaepernick thing. People fucking for years were like, oh, Kaepernick could play quarterback. And then it was like he couldn't after a while. It was like, okay, we're 8 years
Are we
removed
sure?
from it. The guy cannot play. Right. Are we sure? And with the Isaiah Thomas thing, hell no. Hell no. Oh, I forgot you had to root against Colin Kaepernick. So that was a little dig that you just tried to throw in there.
No, no, no. I'm absolutely not anti-cap, right? In fact,
Oh,
if
okay.
I don't own any football jerseys. The last football jersey I owned was Richard Sherman, Seattle, Legion of Boom jersey. Don't have it anymore. If I ever bought another football jersey, it would be that Colin Kaepernick Nike murdered out black on black number
Mm-hmm.
7. So very pro cap around here. All I'm saying is we don't know if he can't play or not because nobody ever gave him a chance again, right? We still don't know. I mean, we're just assuming because of his age, but what if he's got that Tom Brady adrenochrome shot going on? Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up on the pod. That's gonna get us on somebody's playlist that we don't want to be sandwiched in between the two videos above and below that.
What is that? Like a QAnon thing? Like what is that? I just figured that was like what
Yeah,
Kobe did in Germany.
no, no. We don't need to get into it here. Or you
Oh,
can
okay.
bleep this out, right? But essentially, adrenochrome is what they from PizzaGate thing, and that the elites
Oh.
are to make them live forever on some shit. That's adrenochrome. So
Oh,
you can
okay.
just
Yeah, we'll
scrap
bleep
all
that
of that,
out.
throw that out
Yeah.
the window. We don't want that kind of smoke with the internet right now.
Do you think you bring up Pizzagate? Do you think people? Oh, what's the biggest conspiracy of your lifetime? Of my lifetime, I think it's QAnon. Just like as an abstraction of as a funhouse mirror image of our digital culture from like 2016 to 2021 ish. I think QAnon and the lifespan that it had and the amount of people that it infected and still infects to this day. Honestly, kind of the irony in it is QAnon is what ended up being. How do I say this? I'm walking before I can run with this take.
Right, let's
So,
go.
growing up, and this transcends generations, right? It's like as soon as video games came around at all, it's like, oh, like that's going to rot your brain, your phones, your computer, like whatever it is. But then, like boomers and shit ended up getting their brains rotted by something like QAnon or like Facebook misinformation or wherever it is that they can consume their shit. I think we've talked about a couple conspiracies here in the show. I think it's QAnon of my lifetime since
Mm.
1998. It's QAnon.
I think I think you would say if you're adding a multiplier to a conspiracy, QAnon might get it just because social media was so evolved once it took off, and you could argue that was the catalyst for it taking off. But just in terms of pure impact, I mean, you can't beat 9/11 conspiracy theories
Sure, sure, sure,
for
sure,
our
sure.
lifetimes, right? Well, but that's the thing, right? It's just like on the conspiracy theory alone, I think 9/11 still wins, but social media wasn't a thing like that, right? So it didn't have the multiplier or again, right, the tentacles, the metastasizing barriers or edge points that QAnon did. So, and again, I think QAnon's kind of fallen off though, right? I just don't. Is there really still have gas like that?
No, that's why I specified 2016 to 2021 because Q hasn't there hasn't been a drop since
Yeah.
like right before January 6th or maybe right after January 6th, and that was through almost 4 years ago. Yeah.
Ooh.
So
So
yeah,
do we
that
want to
guy.
make
And
a?
go ahead.
I was gonna say, do we want to make a prediction here that the biggest one of our lifetimes will be when 10, 15, 20 years from now, there's a nostalgia QAnon, like a revitalization, right? Like the son of Q, right? Q squared
Hmm.
comes back and there's, again, it hooks in all the people who were young at the time that came out, right? It sparks some things, right? Like basically the return, the sequel will blow away the original.
I hope not, because it'll get me. They'll get me. They'll 100% get me. I say that to my girlfriend all the time. I say it's honestly good that QAnon doesn't exist anymore because I don't want to be on 4chan. I would have never have wanted to be on 8chan. But I wouldn't have been able to help myself, and I would have done it. Like, dude, the worst phase I went through was, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago at this point. I spent like a month on Truth Social just to see like what was
Yikes.
going on. Holy shit, dude. It was crazy. And I was convincing myself because at the time I was working for a company, I was like, I'm going to use this as content. I'm going to do like a bunch of like cultural research on people. This is like Oppo research on Truth Social just as a platform. It was just exactly what you would think that it was. But on the whole social media thing, do you think, and this is a little political thing, also to do a little bit of a tie back, do you think social media could have handled the guy throwing a shoe at George Bush?
Mm, yes, because our social media brains, our social media epigenetics, right, weren't developed enough. Like now we're just like we're past the asymptote on the curve, right? Like we're just too far gone. So everything only lasts 2 seconds, then like all the takes are had immediately, and it just goes like sour really fast. So back in the day, even if we had social media that was more developed, like it truly was just like a little bit more wholesome because people didn't really understand the life cycle of a meme, of an event, right? And so it lasted longer, like the takes could be more elaborate. You kind of had, people still had, outside lives that they were engaged in, right? So it wasn't hyper accelerated. So I think it would have been seen as much more like wholesome, joyful, just like a good day on Twitter back in the day had that happened. And again, not to be nostalgic or say like, oh, Twitter was dope back in '08 or whatever, because there was still a lot of bullshit. But at least, again, I think this has really come to hurt us is like we're too good at the current social media. We've solved the meta. You know what I'm saying? Like we've played the game so much and the meta hasn't evolved that everyone's just beating the game every single meme, right? It's just it's too fast. So either the social media networks need to evolve or our digestion of them. We need new formats, we need new ways to take it in or to give cultural critique to it because again the game's busted. We all know all the moves, right? You go on Twitter and you just like see this and you're like, okay, here comes the Griselda album artwork. Okay, here comes the somebody being like, oh, actually this is bad, here's why, here's a thread. Oh, actually here's why you saying it's bad as a thread, blah, blah, blah. And actually if you really understood X, Y, we all know all the moves, right? And so we need new social media kung fu.
We saw a damn billboard the other day. I still can't wrap my head around it. The billboard was like, it's time to strike out hate. And it was a picture of hate in the batter's box in an 0-2 count. And I was like, wait, so we need to strike out hate. What happens if we walk hate? Not a home run, but they still get on base. Like, what happens if we walk hate? Just conceptually, like, what does that look like?
I mean, let's go farther. Like somebody signed hate to a professional contract. Somebody is paying hate millions of dollars to play for their team. How are they let in the building? How did you scout this man? Somebody scouted hate since they were a high schooler and we're like, this is my guy. This guy represents what I'm about. It's wild. It's crazy.
I love the idea of somebody sitting in hate's kitchen with their parents and being like, folks, I don't get to say this often, but when I know, I know. And with your son, and it's just like it's a Comic Sans stick person and it just says hate.
Man,
Anyways,
it's just it's blue chips, but with hate instead of Shaq, right? It's you. I mean, once you strike out hate, he's just coming back up in three more innings.
right, he's in
So you
right.
got
He just
to.
comes
I mean,
back in the
it's a
order,
never
right?
ending thing, right? Maybe that's the thing. Maybe they're trying to wear you down. Maybe they're just like stay ever vigilant on hate.
Yeah, just keep your eyes peeled in case anything crazy happens,
Yeah, I
right?
don't like it. It's very narc coded. It's very snitch on people, right? I'm old enough to be from the era where it was like stop snitching. Now everybody's a snitch online.
Have you ever seen something that then made you had to say something at an airport?
Uh, I have seen things, but I simply refuse, right? Unless just on principle, right? Again, like that's none of my business mostly, right? And there's exceptions, right? You could go too far and like maybe, you got to get somebody's attention, but nah, nah, we're not doing that, right? Your suitcase that is in the perfect shape of a stick of dynamite, like that's your business.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you've got a guitar case, right, and you got like the missile fin sticking out the back. I mean, look, you're probably late for your plane. Just keep going. You're probably not on my flight. You're good.
I've never called the police or well, okay, I've called the police one time, but in my adult life I've never like even on the train and shit, like you'll see bad stuff all the time and you're just kind of like someone else will take care of this, but I just need to go home at this point. The only
I
time I've
mean,
ever called the
yeah.
police in my life was I was like me and my friends we were like 5 and we thought we saw a wolf and then we found some guy's wallet, some random guy's wallet. We called the police and said that we saw a wolf and found a guy's wallet. The police showed up and they were like, fucking stop calling us. How about don't call us next time? But anyways, go ahead.
No, no, no. I that's the content people are looking for is the boy who literally cried wolf and had a
Yeah.
stranger's wallet.
Yeah, and to this day, it's not nearly as interesting as maybe I've made it seem. Do you think that social media could have handled Dennis Rodman? Because they already
Hmm.
kind of can't handle Jared McCain.
Probably not, but I don't think Dennis Rodman could have handled social media because he really fed off the media attention and would like raise the stakes as he was getting more notoriety, right? So like you put him in the social media blender of today, like he's again, unfortunately, he's gonna be Chris Farley, right? He's gonna be just like in a hotel room
Whoa.
crashed out. You know what I mean? Like he's not making it. So it's actually really good for all involved that he's not that didn't happen, right? He could go to the extremes, to the limits, and still be alive today, right? Still go to North Korea. I mean, again, crazy timeline we're in.
Don't tell me there's a bad angle on that, right? It's only cool that he goes to North Korea. There's nothing bad about that.
No, no, he's not important enough or sophisticated enough for something bad to come out of that, right? I think it's truly you know, uh, the Kims have full power over there. And if they're like, hey, I like the Bulls, let me invite some of the Bulls over there. It's just, again, it's pure whimsy. It's not anything else. So no, I think there's 0% chance of anything nefarious there.
We've talked a little bit about this. You know what I think is weird about the whole North Koreans and fighting and the conflict in Ukraine, what the coverage about it that's weird is everybody says that they're in Ukraine, but they're fighting in Russia. They're not fighting in Ukraine. So what's that? Why did they miscommunicate that? That's intentional, I'm assuming, but why?
Yeah.
They're fighting in Russia.
Right. It's to be honest, I mean, the fact that North Koreans were even over there, right, was really dubious in the beginning, right? And allegedly, apparently, the information that North Koreans were over there came from the same South Korean cabinet of the president who just got impeached over there, right? And so, if you followed that, he was really hoping for some sort of like, you know, aggravated response by North Korea to South Korea at that time. So his martial law proclamation would have had more weight. And to me, it all kind of ties in like if you overstate the North Korean presence somewhere or their involvement in something or anything like that, right? South Korea gets to play a lot off of that, right? Japan gets to play a lot off of those risks. So to your point, there's just a lot of misinformation and people are just going to use that in the way that benefits them the most, right? I mean, the only thing we really can say about North Korea is that they are providing Russia with crazy amounts of like small munitions, right? Just like
Mm-hmm.
think literally like bullets and things like that because again, the the more advanced nations, they don't make that stuff anymore. Like America barely makes any of that anymore, right? It's like people would be shocked to know that like, hey, all of our money is going towards these high tech advanced systems, and we don't make like bullets. And so for North Korea, for them to have people over in Russia slash Ukraine, right? It is just like fodder for for the it's gristle for the mill, right? It's just like, hey, let's get some takes off, let's get some more funding, let's get people scared, let's get people going. So it's just like I don't even think we can say that much other than like, yeah, maybe some troops over there, maybe it's just like advisors, maybe like they're getting trained up by the Russians in exchange for some of these munitions. Like, it's pretty probably pretty staid and pretty tame, but it's boogeyman, right? It's like it's crazy to think about. If North Koreans are in Ukraine, what's next? Just like,
Right.
Indonesians are in Finland, just like, people doing getting high in their freshman dorm levels of takes on it.
It's been maybe like close to a year since any like Western publication has been like Putin might have Parkinson's. He might be kind of sick. We get that like once a year. That happens a lot. There was, well, just hasn't in a while. There was even the one. I've tried to go back and read about this, but it's been like scrubbed from the internet. I don't know where it is. I don't know. Maybe this didn't happen. Maybe I'm getting Mandela'd right now. It
You're
was a
Mandeling
couple of years
yourself.
ago. I think so. It's happened on this show. I did a whole thing about CC Sabathia playing on the Phillies. That never fucking happened. I have vivid childhood memories of it. It never actually fucking happened. But anyways,
Bravo.
a couple of years ago, Kim Jong Un dead. Everybody's like, "Holy shit, Kim Jong Un dead." It happened. And like 2 days go by, and then he just like shows up. He's like, "What's up? It's me, and I'm actually alive. I'm literally Kim Jong Un. I'm alive." And then we find out that he only faked his death so that he would figure out who was reporting all of this shit to like Western intelligence. And then apparently Kim Jong-un, it was his uncle who was doing it. It was Kim Jong-un's uncle who was like leaking all this shit. So Kim Jong-un brought him out into a field with like they built grandstands, a bunch of spectators, and they had his uncle stay in the middle of the field and they shot his ass with a missile.
I mean, Kim Jong Unk, no more.
Dude, that's insane. That's insane. And I've gotten pushback from comments. You gave me pushback about this too. I don't understand how it was the Hezbollah guys with the pagers, right?
That's who the pagers got sent to. It was Israel
Right. They were the ones who
that
were
did it.
right. No. But right. What I'm saying is I'm trying to Mossad did this operation where they like put these explosive devices in pagers that were
Yes,
attached to Hezbollah terrorists,
totally,
right?
totally. Well, not terrorists, but go
Okay,
ahead.
see, that's where I'm like, what's going on here? Because when I call it James Bond shit, which it just is, I'm not denoting anything about the attack other than the technology that was used is James Bond shit.
I mean, only if you mean it in the most literal way, right? If you mean it as in like, hey, it's a little bit, TLC, sexy cool, right? Then you're gonna get a big on that one. But if you just mean James Bond as in literally, it's so old that it would have made sense in a James Bond movie 50 years ago, but it's pretty quaint, outdated, and quite frankly, cavemanish today, then you're absolutely correct, right? You're just like, oh man, they put poison ink in a pen that he wrote with. This is some James Bond shit. It's like, yeah, that is some James Bond shit. But if you're just like, hey, it's actually kind of cool, it's like, bro, they just put some bombs in some pagers that dudes was walking around with. And again, don't pretend like it was a precise operation here. They just like all kinds of people who use pagers over there got them. And guess where a pager sits? At hip height, which just happens to be the height of a child's head.
Right.
So if you look at again, the civilian casualties on that thing, it's massive. It's not targeted. It's not, again, right? It's not sophisticated. It was, like, what if we duct tape some grenades to the pagers and set them off, in some baby bassinets? It's like, hey, you know what? Yeah, me personally, I'm like, hey, that's not so cool, but I feel you.
It's like some Looney Tune shit. Like some Wile E. Coyote, what is it, the Acme store? It's basically
Yes.
what it was.
Yeah.
There was
Basically.
the IDF released a movie, I don't know, like a month after October 7th called The Attack Was How Long? Maybe like 90 minutes or something. I don't remember how long it actually lasted on, but it was however long the actual attack was, 93 minutes, whatever it's called. And it's just that long of security camera footage from around Israel and all these different kibbutz and stuff. And I got like 15 minutes into it and was like, I don't know. Why do I keep fucking doing this? Why do I keep watching
Nah,
this shit?
can't do it.
and like
Can't do it.
the hanging out on like r/combat footage, and I'm just like watching all
Mm.
these Ukrainian drone guys just like flying into tanks. But they started to do this in Israel too. In Ukraine and in Israel, they're doing the same thing with the tanks, where they basically just put these like makeshift canopies so that these drones can't keep dropping shit in their tanks. And it's like the most like trivial shit in the world, but it's like actually effective and it works. And so
Yeah.
that to me has been one of the scariest parts of both of these conflicts is the drones that are, because it's not like well, I don't really know that this makes it better or worse. But when I was growing up and Obama was like, I fucking love drones, that to me was like, we're 3,000 feet in the air and we're pushing a button and it goes, and it's like a precise thing, right? But the ones that we're talking about here are like Timu drones. Like these shits are from the dollar store and they're just like packing them with explosives, or like you were talking about with the pages, like literally duct taping grenades to them and just fucking flying into shit. It's terrifying. You watch like, I'm sorry, I'm steamrolling here, but you watch like these PBS docs and shit about dudes who are boots on the ground, and the second that they start to hear a little bit of a buzz, it's get on the ground, and like it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
I mean, there's terrifying and there's terrifying, right? I think ultimately you're getting at asymmetrical warfare is only getting more asymmetrical in the sense of all these, military powers are investing all this money into very large pieces of equipment, very sophisticated, very well-known pieces of equipment when they can be undone with very cheap commercial grade technologies, right? And that's only going to increase more and more. Start thinking about like, okay, you got tanks that can get taken out by a drone, right? Okay, cool. Well, now you have drones that can be taken out with like the equivalent of a laser pointer, right? And so, okay, and so like the escalation and like what is going to be used as, defenses to that really starts to blur the line between civilian technologies and military technologies. So then you start getting into sanctions with different countries, you start getting supply lines with, okay, so and so is sanctioning so and so, okay, we can't get chips from here, okay, we can't export these parts, these minerals. Well, now again, these lines have been so blurred that everything's on the table, right? It's just like any piece of equipment you own, right, can now be like plausibly, air quotes, called military technology, right? And so, what can governments, authorities, three-letter agencies do with that, right? So, at what point is it just like, hey, you own a DJI drone, or excuse me, a DJI drone, you again, right? You get caught doing the wrong thing, or you say the wrong thing online, and it's like, oh, hey, this is a domestic terrorist because you have a drone sitting at home. You know what I mean? So it's like these things like ripple out. The effects of these things are like, hey, it's scary in the battle zone, but like beyond that, it's just like these things are getting so diffuse that now who can say, plausibly what is used for what? It just there's too many. It's Pandora's box, man. There's too many tentacles on that thing.
Yeah, I was reading something from Reuters earlier today, and they were talking about the amount of money that they have spent on drones, like in just in the last year. It's just insane, and just the amount, and the explosives that have to go with it. Um, it's bizarre, dude. And another thing I've never mentioned on the show, and I've never told you this, but I've kind of told on myself with a few things in this episode. So, what's one more thing? I bought something really weird. I'm not gonna go get it, but I bought
Okay.
something really weird back in like September. Um, we were at the Salvation Army in the place that we grew up, and the place that we grew up is very like. There's a lot of like I like to wear camo on this show, but I like to do it for like fashion. These
Mm,
people wear camo because that's what they wear, right?
mm.
It's a lot of pickup trucks and shit like that. So imagine my surprise when I'm at the Salvation Army and I see this green military green shirt with just a picture of Zelensky on it. And
Wow.
it's basically like, oh, all hail this fucking guy. It's for $3. And I was like, it's a political shirt, which I think is in principle just a weird thing. I just think that's weird. But it was too damn funny of a shirt for $3 for me to not own. I've never like touched it since we brought it home because I feel so profoundly uncomfortable that I have a shirt with Zelensky being like Slava Ukraini. Like I feel weird about it. So just uh, your thoughts, gesturing the mic to you, politicians on T-shirts.
So with that one in particular, I feel like you're essentially wearing, you know how during the NBA Finals they make NBA champion shirts for both teams?
Yeah.
You're wearing like the Miami Heat bubble championship tee because Ukraine's not winning this thing, man. I'm sorry, it's not happening. So like you're wearing like Jimmy Butler, one-time NBA champ camo shirt
Right.
right now. And so it's just like, it's an interesting oddity, right? Again, back to the timelines thing. It's like, you're wearing a shirt from a different timeline. Ultimately, I think politicians on t-shirts almost 100% bad unless it's done in like the 1992 Dream Team caricature style. Like if you
Yeah.
just had like, founding fathers in crazy basketball poses with caricature
Yeah.
faces in, you know, in Dream Team jerseys, like that'd be sweet. That one I could get behind, right? Or like Karl Marx as like world's strongest man,
Oh, there we go.
body or something like that with the giant beard. Like you could go places with that.
We'll wrap up on this. You mentioned the bubble. I was doing a mental exercise the other day. I wanted to run this past you. I love to look back at shit that Adam Silver has done and be like, what if he did the exact opposite thing? And like, how would history be different? The easiest thing to do, the most fun exercise is the whole Donald Sterling thing, but that's not what we're here to visit today. I think the dude shows a lot of ingenuity as a commissioner, for better or for worse. The guy wants to try new shit, right? So what if it was 2020 and the NBA, who I'm pretty sure was the first one to be like, what about a bubble? It might have been the NHL, but I don't remember. But the NBA was the first to actually start doing it, right? Just a pretty good idea. What if the NBA had decided to treat the bubble at Disney like it was Los Alamos when they were building the fucking bomb? All the players bring their families. They're not going to play well if they don't have their families and shit, but they can't use their phones. There's cameras everywhere. And Adam Silver says, let's really lean into the soap opera piece of this whole thing. Let's really lean into the histrionics that come with being an NBA fan, right? You have to be attached to everything that happens. This is like way better as like a screenplay than it would be as an actual, practice for a fucking professional sports league. But I talked earlier about QAnon being a funhouse mirror image of our digital culture. The NBA to a lot of people has become a funhouse mirror image of just basketball. So what if Adam Silver had just leaned in and was like full Survivor, Big Brother, Hell's Kitchen vibes for the NBA bubble?
My thoughts immediately are that maybe they get close to F1 Drive to Survive territory. Maybe it would actually be interesting instead of the NBA behind the scenes quote unquote
Right.
doc series that they did that was milquetoast and boring as hell. Like maybe they would have had a good one. All I'm saying is you got to let everything in, right? Illicit substances, super illicit substances, whatever you got, right? You got to let it all in, and you're going to see some mental illness, right? That's kind of the problem is that you put everybody in this bubble like this at Disney World, and unless you're the Lopez twins, you're not getting good behavior out of that. So I wonder how much of it they could have aired, but what they could have aired would have been gold. That's all. That's all I know.
It would have been fucking great. We would have gotten to see storylines like Daniel House being so horny at the bubble that he had to invite somebody over and like break content because they couldn't even like DoorDash and shit. I don't think, but he was like, "I'm going to invite a woman here." And then, did she
Again,
get there? I don't remember what actually ended up happening with that.
I don't remember the story, but all I know is that like I think people really underestimate NBA players in the sense of like we all think they're robots and machines like LeBron who are just like, very very diligent and studious about every facet of their lives to maximize their career. Most of the dudes are just trying to survive every day like you and me, right? Like for us maybe it's like it's coffee, right? It's extra beer at the end of the day. It's something, pretty innocuous, but for them, they got access to money and other things like that. So it's going to be it's going to be turbocharged, the things that get them through the day, so to speak. So it's going to sound wild to us, and for them, it's just like, hey, this is Magic City. This is just a Tuesday.
Yeah, there wasn't. I'm really trying to think that there wasn't that much funny stuff. Like the anecdotes from the players was cool because they would be like, they said it was kind of like high school. Like they would eat in a cafeteria and they would all eat like as a team, and they didn't really like interact with each other because it's like, well, we just lost by 15 to you guys yesterday, and we just beat these guys by 12, so they don't want to talk to us. And like and I think if you had the families there, it would have really opened it up. Do you think that if that is how it happened, the NBA would be in the dip that it's in right now?
Mm. No,
Yes.
bubble
I
drama would
think
have saved
yes.
everything.
You think so?
No,
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 no way.
absolutely
Although it
not. The
would have
only
been
yeah.
it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the only thing that they got out of the bubble is that people still can argue about LeBron's title in the bubble and counting it or discounting it. AD, et cetera, et cetera. Lakers, Bill Simmons on his, oh, the Minneapolis title shouldn't count. Oh, the bubble title shouldn't count. All that BS. So,
I
it's
think
it's tough.
the people who say the bubble thing are children, but I think that the Minnesota point, I think it has some standing. I don't push back on it. Why should those
Mm.
championships count for the Los Angeles Lakers?
I mean, it's just it's the franchise, right? Again,
I get
why
it.
are they called the Lakers in Los Angeles? Ain't no lakes in Los Angeles.
Well,
This is back to
right.
the Jazz
There's
thing again,
that piece
right?
of it. Right.
They
Right.
should be the Utah Mountaineers. They should be, you know, the Utah Red Rocks. Get the Jazz
The
up out of
the
there.
hockey team right now is the Utah Hockey Club, and they're gonna
Okay,
switch to the Yeti probably next year,
interesting. I don't think
up to a
that's
fan vote.
yeah, I don't think that's a indigenous cryptozoological creature for Utah. I think that's appropriation. I think Yetis are much farther north. I think they need to is Chupacabra territory still? I mean, because there's some desert in southern Utah, so maybe Chupacabra can go farther north. How about this? Chupacabra can go farther north than the Yeti can south. I'm just not buying it.
A chupacabra can go more north than a Yeti
Yeti
can
can
south.
go
Yeah,
a
that
little
makes
south.
sense. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah.
What would be the most like geologically how do I say this? Which like fake what fictional thing like we're talking about like a Bigfoot or a Yeti or a
Yeah.
chupacabra like transcends not geology but like weather and they could survive in any climate.
Yeah, so we're talking about as cryptids. Cryptozoology is the study of mythological creatures and animals. So, which one is the most environmentally robust? That's a great
There you
question.
go.
I mean, I like to think like if there could be a Loch Ness monster out in Scotland, could there be a salty Loch Ness monster that lives in the Great Salt Lake? You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm going if I'm Utah. If I'm appropriating from Scotland, right? Ain't nobody gonna get mad at you for that one. But the most robust one, you'd probably have to go. It's probably some kind of reptile, right? You probably have to, or some sort of I don't know.
I
That's a
was
tough
thinking a
one.
unicorn like straight up.
Okay, that's not bad. I mean, there's the other species, right? There, you got unicorns and alicorns, and you got multiple variations there you could go with. I mean, Yetis again, I think are too much in the snow. I know there's mountains in Utah, but again, I'm not buying it. You got Bigfoots and similar creatures out west, right? So that's you can't steal that from Pacific Northwest. I'm trying to think what would be in Utah? I'm thinking more desert because the bottom half of Utah is all desert. So I'm buying into certain types of coyote, werewolf type creatures. I'm going with some sort of like snake that transforms, right? Some kind of something like that. Yeah, I think that makes more sense for them. But again, I'm just name it after rocks, man. I mean, Utah's always been the most boring franchise, in league history. Top five bottom, bottom five franchises in terms of the top five bottom teams in NBA history. Um, yeah, so I'm not buying. Just name them after a rock, right? Just the Utah Rockies. Who cares?
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like. Nice little, make sure to subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. Also, Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts officially full go there. That's it, folks. I will catch you guys in the next one.
Beautiful.